Hello, I'm Dango Rose. Welcome to the Mountaineer Podcast, where everybody's listening. The Mountaineer brings you the latest news of the Peak-to-Peak region, in print, online, through our podcast, social media, and special publications. Now, listen in to the latest news of the area with our local journalists.
Welcome back to the Mountaineer Podcast, where everybody's listening. I'm Barbara Hardt.
And I'm Doug Armitage. Thanks for joining us. This month's intro music is provided by Dan Williams. Dan Williams is a jazz, blues, and rock musician that has been reportedly playing music all his life. Keep an eye out for Dan Williams performing live at Very Nice Brewing Company, 20 Lakeview Drive, number 112 in Nederland on Thursday, March 24th at 6 p.m.
This episode is brought to you by Brightwood Music, Frozen Dead Guy Days, Very Nice Brewing Company, and of course, the Mountaineer newspaper. And now to the news desk.
This week's movie at the Backdoor Theater is Frozen, rated PG. When the newly crowned Queen Alyssa accidentally uses her power to turn things into ice to curse her home in infinite winter, her sister Anna teams up with a mountain man, his playful reindeer, and a snowman to change the weather condition. You remember the Let It Go song, right? Well, now you can have it in your head for the whole next month. The movie shows only Friday this week at 7 p.m.
This week's edition of The Mountaineer includes several Keep It Local features. Keep It Local is a campaign to help businesses share their business information and story across the Peak-to-Peak region. Keep It Local is funded for Nederland through the town of Nederland and for Gilpin by the Gilpin County Commissioners. All funding is through the American Rescue Plan Act. During 2022, you'll see 104 stories from Nederland and 104 stories from Gilpin County. Do you want to have your business featured? Check out www.themountaineer.com and click on Submit My Business Feature to be considered for an upcoming story. Businesses outside the Keep It Local coverage area can be included as business short takes.
Our first story today is an interview with Marcus If about the upcoming Frozen Dead Guys Dead Poem Slam. Here's Chris Kelley with that interview.
This is Christopher Kelley, and I had the honor to sit with legendary Colorado Poet Laureate Marcus If, who, apart from presenting Frozen Dead Poet Slam at this year's Frozen Dead Guy Days, is also the founder of Beyond Academia Free School, a nonprofit free alternative school for artists, writers, poets, and musicians. Marcus is also a Nederland historian and operator of Ned's 70-ton steam shovel, and also Zen Tyrant of the Love Shovel Ranch, an artist sanctuary out on Caribou Road, where he has resided for nearly 30 years. I sat down with Marcus at Backcountry Pizza, where we discussed Frozen Dead Guy Days in the past, as well as what to look forward to for this year. And we also talked about all his great work at the Beyond Academia Free School. Let's get into it.
It was probably 2009, maybe
Okay.
2008. And it was beautiful sunny weather, and so 10,000 people showed up, and there were 3 cops on duty.
Oh boy.
And it was the first year that they closed off First Street.
Okay.
Because they had to.
Yeah.
Because people were standing around with drinks everywhere.
You were just blocking the street anyway, you might as well just...
Yeah, so they had to. That was the year where I became the mayor of In Between. And I have a leather top hat that I wear at festival, and so I was walking all over town. I was half cocked, and I was talking to everybody, and I'm like, "Hi, I'm the mayor of In Between. I got 3 rules for you for my town, and that is, what was it? Don't drive if you can't, because we don't want the cops to have to chase you down. Don't start any fights in my town, and party like you live here, which means clean up after yourself."
Clean up after yourself. Damn right.
And I just went around town saying that to everybody. And that entire Frozen Dead Guy days, there was one arrest because somebody hit a bouncer because the bouncer wouldn't let him into the bar because the bar was at capacity. So it was one in, one out. And the dude's like, "No, I'm going in." And, "No, you can't." So he hit the bouncer. So just stupid drunkenness. That was the only arrest. And there was only one other, there was a, what do you call it? A contact.
Or altercation.
No, it was a man and a wife with a less than 2-year-old kid in a stroller having an argument on the street.
Okay.
Which is prone to happen at that age of the child, you know. It's like you're so stressed out, you haven't slept, you know.
Yeah, it's bound to happen.
Yeah, so
you say something the wrong way and like what, and then it turns into a
right. So that whole weekend, 10,000 people on Saturday alone, and we had one arrest.
Yeah,
and part of it was because Nederland is such a cool freaking place, and part of it was the cops being cool too.
Yeah.
So the treasurer of the school came up to the Frozen Dead Guy days one year, and he slammed Sam I Am. It was amazing.
That's so good.
It was amazing.
That's so good. I was going to ask, what dead poets would you like to see resurrected for Dead Poets Slam this year? Like, what?
I'd like to see Belle Turnbull come back, and there's someone who will do her. I haven't heard back from her. Belle Turnbull was a Colorado poet. She might have even been one of our laureates in 150 years ago. And she was kind of amazing for her time period. I definitely want to learn more about her. She had things going on that weren't happening for another 100 years. Who else would I like to see back? Dr. Seuss?
Dr. Seuss.
Jim Morrison was pretty impressive. But the guy who does Jim Morrison is doing Hafiz this year.
Okay.
One of the rules is technically you can't bring the same poet 2 years in a row.
Okay. That's a good rule.
Because it allows someone else to be. Everybody wants to do Sylvia Plath.
Okay.
Sylvia Plath is always there. But it's got to be somebody different every year.
Yeah. So you have rules and sets, so you don't have like 10 people at Shakespeare. Like
yes, you have to reserve your poet.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And once that poet is reserved, no one else can reserve it. One year, weather was probably about like it is now, plus a non-stop 25 to 35 mile an hour wind. I can't believe that there were so many people out there. And on Saturdays during the festival, Frozen Dead Guy days, we have an open reading. And nobody showed up. I had no poets as backup, no poets that I know.
Yeah.
And so it was just me. So luckily, I come prepared, and I brought 1,100 limericks with me. Now, there's only ever been one clean limerick written. That was Humpty Dumpty. That's the only clean limerick ever. All other limericks are dirty, and they are so dirty, they're like disgusting. Also, the limerick is the only native poetic form to the English language.
Yep.
English has not produced any other form, with the possible exception of slam, which is not a precise form.
Yeah.
So I had this book of limericks, so I started reading them, and I'm loud. I don't need a microphone. I can command the street. And so I started inviting people to, hey, you want to read one? They're all equally bad. There's going to be nothing to be embarrassed about except that you actually read it. And I must have had 150 people. I couldn't leave because crowds were gathering, and well, they're all, you know, there's a crowd, and it's a family, you know, and everything, and there's, you know, mom and dad and their kids and their grandkids, and they're all like, what is going on here?
And everyone's on the same page.
And everybody, they're like, then they hear this really awful, dirty, nasty, foul language limerick, and they're short, you know. So then they give me the book back, and I'm like, who wants to read one? Grandmom says, I'll read one. The whole family is like, you will not? And Grandma, oh, yes, I will.
Oh, that's amazing.
And it just kept happening over and over and over. It was very frequently Mom who would engage.
And that's the funniest.
But whole families had to sit there and deal with that. And due to where we were on our station, most of the people that were stopping were on there where they were leaving. So not only did Mom read dirty limericks with the weird-ass poet on the street, but now we're getting in the car and we're going to have to talk about it all the way back down the canyon. So there is the impact of poetry.
Yeah, like it brings a different level to performance and to slam poetry.
It brings classic poetry back to the masses.
Yep.
And you know, when we read classic poetry, we're trying to read stuff that you remember from high school. You know, we're gonna read The Raven. We're gonna read some Robert Service. You know, we're gonna read a little bit of Shakespeare, and you're gonna be like, oh, I know that poem. Oh wow, that's poetry. Poetry. Geez, I haven't thought about poetry in about 17 and a half years, you know? And now I'm thinking about poetry. Wow. And that's the point. And that's why we go out in public. The most public spaces we can find. Pearl Street Mall, the Farmers Market, Frozen Dead Guy Days.
Damn right.
And not in a tent as a special event. No, you're going to walk by us and we are going to stop you with the power of our performance. And you're going to stop and listen. And how long you stay depends on your level of intellectual interest, but you're going to stop and be like, oh, those aren't crazy people. That's, what was the word? Poetry?
What motivated you to start Beyond Academia Free School?
So Naropa, the Jack Kerouac School, has a summer writing program. Well, they trimmed it down to 3 weeks. It used to be a 4-week program. And back in the 90s, it was running $8,000 in the early 90s for 4 weeks. $2,000 a week.
Wow.
And that was just ridiculous. Meanwhile, there was a thriving poetry community outside of Naropa. And those people could not participate, and it was wrong. And so I being...
it's kind of like the beginning of college, like educational gatekeeping was happening at that point. As far as money.
Right. So we just started to start an anarchist free school. Initially, it was just me, but then in 2014, I decided to have the summer poetry camp, and that year we had 10 of some of the top names from the Front Range teaching classes, and it was highly successful. Come to camp, for sure come to camp. But also second Sundays at the library. Come down, try some poetry. You know?
Absolutely. And I was looking into the writing workshops and all of that.
Yeah. I mean, it's free, and it's an interesting community of interesting people. One of the things that we find that's interesting is because we don't charge, there's no means of ascribing value. So you can't say, well, I paid $12 to go to this poetry workshop today at your little snooty wine fest afterwards. No, you had the commitment to show up for something that you cannot pay for. That brings a different kind of crowd.
I'd like to thank Marcus for sitting down and sharing his story with us, as well as for all the amazing work he does for the local artist community. Be sure to look for your favorite dead poet standing on a soapbox on 1st Street on Saturday, March 19th from 5 to 6 p.m. and Sunday, March 20th, 2 to 5 p.m. And please look for the full article on my interview with Marcus If in the March 17th edition of the Mountaineer.
Frozen Dead Guy Days is coming up March 18th to 20th. Frostafarian friends, we're hoping you will join us at the new FDGD Festival Frontier. This year's event will feature dozens of fun and exciting things to do, like Snow a Human Foosball, coffin races, frozen t-shirt contest, and the Call Me Ned musical performance with Patrice LeBlanc. Tents open at 11 for your favorite Frozen Dead drinks. We've got live music with lots of our friends and much more. Be sure to check out the FDG website for information at FrozenDeadGuyDays.com.
For our next story, we talked to Evan Cantor from the CBDs. Take it away, Jamie.
My name is Jamie Lammers, and this is my interview with Evan Cantor of the CBDs, who has an announcement to make about a tribute show that's coming up at Kathmandu.
My name is Evan Cantor. I'm the rhythm guitarist for the CBDs, primary lead vocal, I guess you'd say.
You have a gig coming up at Kathmandu, is that correct?
Yep, that's correct. Friday, March 18th, 7 to 9.
There was something about this gig that you wanted people to know about before they...
Well, we're doing this gig in honor of and a tribute to two dear friends who passed away very recently. One of them was our bass player, Greg, and the other was a woman in Nederland, very well known in town, Sharon Ferguson. She passed away shortly after Christmas. She'd basically been a part of this band for 9 years. There was a band before, and she was a part of that too, but that was the pre-CBDs, I guess you'd call it. But we wanted people in Nederland to know that we were going to be honoring Sharon that night.
How long have you guys been together as a band?
This band has been together for 9 years. A couple of the guys were in a band called Too Much Jones for I don't know how many years before that, and I came along as a substitute bass player about 10 years ago with them, and then things changed. I switched over to rhythm guitar, and then we got a hold of Greg Staub playing the bass, and so he's been our bass player for 9 years. He just passed away after a long battle with cancer. We want to honor him as well. We'll be playing some of the songs that he wrote. I'll be singing a number of the songs that he sang with the band. I don't know how many people in Nederland know Greg, because he lived in Arvada, but people who know this band know that he was a joyful presence on stage. Sharon was more behind the scenes. We have 5 guys in the band. Each one of them has a spouse, and those spouses are the band chicks. And Sharon, being the earth mother that she was kind of like the den mother for all of those ladies.
Is there anything in this particular show that you're planning on doing differently than other shows to specifically tribute these two amazing people?
Well, it'll be a little like the other shows, but our percussionist, Alex, he'd had conversations with Greg, and Greg had asked him to take over on bass when Greg was no longer able to. Greg did really well through last fall. He played some really great gigs. We had a terrific gig up at the beer garden at the Gold Hill Inn. Greg actually puked twice during that gig, but he played marvelously. We had a couple more gigs at a bike shop down here in Boulder after that. So Alex, our percussionist, he's a multi-instrumentalist, so he's picking up the bass. And we're working on getting a drummer for the show. In the meantime, back in 2013, I wrote a song about Sharon Ferguson, and it was kind of like a one-off. You got to be careful when you write songs about your friends, because they don't always like what you write. But this was a nice song. We didn't really do anything with it, so we're gonna play that song also, because now not only is it just a nice song, it's just so sad and beautiful that this song exists. So it will be a little different for people who have seen us play before.
For those who have not seen you play before, is there a particular style that you think your band kind of captures or has captured over the years?
You know, people talk about Colorado sound, has a lot of acoustic guitars, multiple vocals. We've been a bar band. We haven't worried too much about whether we were going to become famous or play the club circuit in Denver or anything like that. We mostly play in 60s and 70s covers, but we also play a lot of our own original tunes. I think you could say we kind of have that Colorado sound. Oh, with Greg, we were getting 4-part harmonies, which was really nice.
With you specifically as a musician, and possibly with some of the other band members as well, but with you specifically, are there any influences that you've taken from in developing your own musical taste or developing the sound of the band now?
Boy, you know, we're really omnivorous. You know, Bert sometimes tells me that I have 5 different voices. You know, if I'm channeling Elvis or channeling Johnny Cash or David Bowie, it's all good. We've played some jazz tunes, we've played some reggae tunes, classic rock, of course, a lot of pop, and a lot of, I guess what, you know, they say like the Townes Van Zandt side of things, from Poncho and Lefty forward. It's a real mixed bag. Oh, and we even play some disco. We've been known to crank out Cisco Kid. That's one of our favorites.
What are some of your favorite parts about being able to perform live for an audience? And what are you most excited for in performing in general?
You know, I've been playing in bands since I was a teenager, and I sometimes wonder, where did I get all the energy to go to work 40 hours a week? You know, back in my 20s, I'm playing in bands and working construction during the day. Where did I get the energy to do all that? I'm not exactly sure where I found it, but there's something very special about playing music for an audience. First of all, you're channeling energy from the universe. You become a channeler as a performer. So that energy comes into you and you're giving it out to the audience, and the audience bounces it back. You know, it's a circular relationship. So the better the audience, usually the better the show, the more excitement is generated. And quite frankly, it's addictive. I know a few musicians who don't like to play live. Well, it's too much of a hassle. Well, it's worth all the hassle, and that's why you do it. You do it because you love it. I think I speak for the other guys when I say that, too.
Is there anything in particular that you're hoping people will take away from the March 18th show at Kathmandu, especially with the fact that it is tributing to people that were very close to the band and I would argue are very close to the community?
I think we hope that it provides some modicum of healing for people. Sharon's passing really was a shock. Greg, we knew Greg was ill, and we knew it was a terminal diagnosis, but we didn't know when that was coming, and of course we hoped that he would hang on for years and keep playing music. So you need a grieving process. It takes time to get to a point where you're not as emotionally charged thinking about it. And I think we all still are pretty emotionally charged about this because it just hasn't been that long. The date came up at Kathmandu because historically we've played there at Frozen Dead Guy Days. And we're not a part of the regular festival, but Rasham always had us in there to play on that Friday night of the festival weekend. So in many ways, it's like a return to normalcy for us, but the fact that these two loved people are missing means it's not normal. So it's a healing process for all of us, and we just hope that the people who come to hear the music get a bit of that as well.
Is there anything else about the performance or anything else coming up for you guys as a band, or just anything else in general that you want to add?
Oh, I don't know. There's not much more to say about it. You know, we've been a bar band for 10 years, 9 years actually. We never thought much about making an album or promoting the music in some other way. And lately, people have been asking us if we had an album because they say our original songs are sounding really nice. So that's kind of the next step for us, is to somehow get into the studio and put some of these songs, you know, I'd say on tape, but we don't use tape anymore. When I started out on this journey as a musician, it was a super big deal when you could get a 4-track reel-to-reel tape recorder. Oh my God, we got 4 tracks. It's a different world. But yeah, that's next for the CBDs. We don't have any other shows scheduled, so we're trying to catch up to the trauma of the last month and a half and find our way to move forward.
Those are all the big questions that I have on my end.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I want to thank you so much for coming on board, taking your time to do this interview. This was really enlightening.
Well, I hope it's not terribly boring to people.
No, God, no. I can speak from experience that especially Sharon had a huge impact on the community, and I'm sure that...
Yeah, I don't know who it was that told me, but somebody said, she was the unofficial mayor of Nederland. And I think that just basically meant that, hardly a soul in the town didn't know Sharon. When she started working at the visitor center there, she was kind of like the official greeter for the town. For tourists, if you came to Nederland and you go into that little visitor center, and there'd be Sharon telling you what's going on. Well, there's a trailhead over here. There's a carousel across the street. There's some restaurants, you can get a burger at this place, and you get good pizza at that place. So I know she had a big impact up there.
I think this show is going to mean a lot to people, for sure.
Yeah, I agree with you. I do think it will be very meaningful. There won't be a whole lot of dry eyes. We just have to hold it together playing the tunes. I mean, when I start singing the songs that Greg wrote and the ones that he sang with us, it's like, boy, it takes almost a level of professional detachment to make it all the way through. But I have every confidence that we will do it.
I think you guys will too, and I wish you the best of luck on that performance as well. And
thanks so much.
I think it'll be a good show. I think it'll be good for the memories of both of them.
All right, well, Jamie, thank you so much for your interest in this. I appreciate it. I'm sure that seeing something in the Mountaineer about it will let a lot of people in on it that might have otherwise not got the word. Because, like I say, I think I told you before, I don't even know all the people who knew Sharon. So how would I get in touch with them? I have no idea. This is the only way. So hopefully it works good for everybody concerned.
Thank you so much to Evan for coming on board and joining us for the podcast. If you want to check out the tribute show, be sure to head to Kathmandu Indian on 110 North Jefferson Street in Nederland on March 18th, 2022 from 7 to 9 p.m. Much like that show, this episode of the Mountaineer Podcast is dedicated to the memories of Sharon Ferguson and Greg Staub.
Thanks, Jamie. Now back to the news desk. Did you know the Mountaineer has a free 100-day trial to the online and print edition? You can check it out on the website at www.themountaineer.com and click on subscribe. You can pick up the latest edition on the stands, which has a free coupon inside it as well, or you can email publisher1977@gmail.com to sign up.
Peak-to-peak musicians and artists, the Mountaineer is looking for you. We're looking for our April and May featured musicians. Would you like a feature story in the Mountaineer print, online, and podcast edition? We cover all news of the Peak to Peak, including business, author, and artist profiles. Right now, these are all completed through email, phone calls, and occasional in-person interviews with our journalists. Interested? Email publisher1977@gmail.com to get in on the list for upcoming editions.
Brightwood Music offers on-site string repairs and can restring your 6-string acoustic for $10 plus the cost of strings. They also offer lessons for all ages and abilities. Brightwood Music is family-owned and operated and has been the Nederland staple for your string music needs for over a decade. They are located at 20 East Lakeview Drive, Unit 109 in Nederland, and can be reached at 303-258-8863.
Don't forget, our April Fool's edition is coming out, one of the best issues for us to produce, with feature stories that might be serious, but will always be entertaining for everyone. Send a copy to your friends. See if they notice that it's April Fool's.
For our next story, here is Christopher Kelley talking to Dr. Caleb Cronin, Doctor of Audiology.
Hello, I'm Christopher Kelley, and I was lucky enough to sit and talk with Dr. Caleb Cronin at the Marion Downs Center in Denver, where he acts as the Director of Hearing Conservation as a Doctor of Audiology. Dr. Cronin grew up in Nederland, and his band, Cronin Band, has played Frozen Dead Guy Days back in 2016 and 2018. This year, Dr. Cronin is bringing a different kind of service to the festival and to the people of his hometown. Let's get into it. Can you tell me a little bit about what you do here at the Marion Downs Center?
So, a program opened 50 years ago in 1972 here to go to different places in the state and test people's hearing that were exposed to loud sounds. A lot of factories, a lot of mines.
Yeah.
And of course, that's not the same trailer from 50 years ago, but it was the same idea. We've had like a mobile hearing testing unit for 50 years.
Wow.
And when I was getting my doctorate at CU Boulder, I rotated through here to see what it was like. Feel free to have any. And I really fell in love with the idea of preventing hearing loss rather than ignoring the fact that people were getting hearing loss and then trying to deal with it later with hearing aids or whatever. And so the person who was in charge of this program for 40 years, her name is Jill Wayne. She's an audiologist. She also is a doctor. And she was like, I'm retiring. And you have really impressed me. I really think you should take this over. So I took it over. So what I do is I oversee the program. I made a new training video last year. I review every hearing test we do, which is a lot.
Yeah, I'm sure.
so if somebody, we go every year to these places, whether it be a music place or a mining place or whatever, and we make sure that people's hearing doesn't drop, that they're not losing their hearing. And if they do lose their hearing, I have to check it out. Yeah. They come back in here. So this morning I had a miner come in. I had a guy that works at a plastic factory come in. So I say, well, hey, let's see what's going on. Why your ears changed, why your ears got worse. Sometimes they're just clogged up with wax. Sometimes they're they got an ear infection. So it doesn't always mean that their hearing dropped because they were around loud sounds. But a lot of my job is educating them too. Like, hey, buddy, your ears dropped. We should really get you some good custom-made silicone earplugs instead of the foam ones that aren't fitting your ear right. So I help people with figuring out why their hearing is going down, educating them, getting them the right hearing protector. I mean, I went to the Colorado Symphony, and I got all of them special music hearing protection. Oh, wow. I see a lot of musicians here. Oh, wow, sure. I see about 100 musicians every couple of months. Oh, wow. And what do I do for musicians? Well, I test their musicians' hearing. I take impressions of their ear to get them custom-made in-ear monitors so that they can hear themselves better on stage. Oh, that's excellent. And it also protects their ear from it being too loud on stage. Yeah. I get them a custom-made filtered earplug so that the sound is still natural sounding and it's not warped by like foam earplug. So it's really cool because the custom filtered earplugs, I could show you a pair, but they have a membrane in them. So the sound's brought down to a safe level, but it doesn't really sound any different. It just sounds quieter. Okay. Whereas a lot of the cheap earplugs, the sound changes. You get a lot of bass, not much treble. Yeah. It kind of lopsides the EQ, and sounds
for a musician, that's hell. Yeah.
Yeah, especially like a guitarist or a singer where they need to hear the tone of their instrument. Yep. Drummers don't care as much, and sometimes bassists don't care as much. But people who are trying to hear those high pitched sounds, those high frequencies, they need that clarity. So that's the other thing I do. And then I do noise measurements. So one cool thing here is I'll put a device on somebody and they'll wear it for their whole shift or their whole concert or whatever. And it measures how much sound they're exposed to.
I'm going to snap a picture.
Yeah. So, they'll wear this device for maybe 8 hours or something, and it'll spit back a number like, they went over their allowed noise dosage by this much. Or maybe they didn't hit maybe they only used half their noise dosage, and they're cool. So a lot of it's these noise measurements, a lot of it's these getting them custom ear devices to protect ears, check on their hearing. Long story short is I prevent hearing loss.
Yeah, I was just about to say, it's all about the preventative measures, which is important. Like, it's funny that, I'm here. It seems like the universe brought me here because I personally have horrible ear health. I always have. I've been told I have very, very narrow canals, so a lot of wax buildup. I got to take care of it. Growing up, my grandma used to force my head under a sink and take a straightened hairpin right to my ear, and that was like torture.
Hopefully she never touched your eardrum with hairpin. She probably did if it hurt.
Probably did. It definitely hurt a lot. It was, I maybe 6.
I remember that type of, even just doing it to myself idiotically too. When you're young like that, or you're from an old school of thought, there sometimes people don't realize how delicate the ear is. Not just the eardrum, but the inner ear. And one thing I've found is that the ear is one of the most delicate parts of your body because it doesn't heal. If you cut your skin or you break a bone or tear a ligament, usually that heals up. It might take some time. But
and you have casts and stuff to help it bend.
And the cells regenerate. Some of the only cells in your body that don't regenerate are in your inner ear. And they're the cells that take the sound wave and turn it into electricity that gets sent up to the brain. And so they look like a hair. And when they get cracked or bent over, they don't work anymore. And so a loud sound can come in and break it, the cell, or it can bend it, repeated times. It doesn't stand up straight anymore. It's kind of broken. And so I always tell people, it's a rare type of injury where it doesn't heal.
Yeah.
So people need to be really careful about their hearing.
Absolutely. On that note, what do you feel about the rising trend, which I guess it started with pimple popping, and now it's earwax removal. I got an ad for Facebook that I almost fell for. That was like this little drill-looking thing.
Whoa!
Yeah. It was very intense, and and you can go to their YouTube page and watch the earwax come out somebody's ears. And I don't want to judge. People are into what they're into. However, I looked up, just wanted to see some consumer reviews, just wanted to hear what experts had to say about this drill thing because of my own ear problems, and pretty much unanimously it's like, no, don't. If you go to an ear specialist, get some Debrox, get the little squeegee,
So I remove wax almost every day from people's ears.
I'm sure.
And I've also sadly seen a lot of people come in who have ruptured or ripped their eardrum open with those tools they buy online. It's definitely not suggested, and some earwax is good. Most people who are paranoid about their earwax, they have a completely normal amount. Really, the people who have a lot of earwax are usually the people that have to wear earplugs a lot, or they wear AirPods a lot, because what happens is over time the earwax makes its way out, and then you put something in your ear and push it back.
Yep. And
then if you do that, for a year, it just builds up. So not everybody really has that, because earwax has an antibiotic and antifungal characteristic to it that we want. So sadly, I hate how they're always trying to market these direct-to-consumer medical devices, because I've had too many people come in, I split my eardrum open with this thing I found on Facebook, and I'm like, oh crap, I wish that didn't happen. So that's the story with the earwax.
Yeah, people will do a lot of things to avoid going to see a professional.
They will.
Myself included, because in my 20s, I was at one point, I had just a little bit of hearing loss out of my left ear. And I remembered, my grandma used to took the bobby pin to my ears, so why not just, do that? And bad results. I had to go to a doctor anyway.
It didn't pan out the way we wanted.
Exactly. It didn't work out.
I've been in that category too, being a young musician, even if I headlined the Fox and made, $1,000 that month, that still wasn't enough for me to really live on most of the time, and you can only do that every few months. So when I was trying to make it as a musician, I didn't have enough money to go see a doctor, so I would do stuff like that too. You'd find something online, and but the good news is that we're a nonprofit. We don't turn anybody away.
That's awesome.
This nonprofit's known for raising money and helping people get access to hearing tests, earplugs, even hearing aids at a sliding scale. So that's what makes us different than really anywhere else in the state. We do not turn anybody away. If they say I can't afford hearing aids, or I can't afford this earplug, or I can't afford the hearing test, that's okay. We've raised money to help that, and we have generous donors who have said, okay, here's some dough so you can help out musicians, or you can help out whoever.
Yeah.
We do. I mean, they'd have to fill out financial, make sure they qualify.
Yeah.
But that's another reason why I love working here.
And the center here also does some speech and language as well, which is excellent, because I needed a speech therapist when I was younger.
And imagine if mom and dad couldn't afford speech therapy for you, and the school, they only give you, I mean, don't quote me on, you can.
It was a public school that I went to. Yeah, it was a public school.
Public schools, they don't give you they don't have enough bandwidth to give you a lot of time.
Yep.
From what I hear. I mean, every school's different, but it's nice to have sometimes kids can come here after school, get the speech therapy they need. And what's interesting is I have adult patients your age that came here decades ago for speech therapy, and maybe they have hearing problems. I would say, hey, I remember being in this room getting speech therapy. So then they're like, well, I want to give back. I want to give to. So it's being around for so many years. This center has built up kind of this cycle almost, where the kids who were helped and now are professionals say, well, I want the next generation of kids to be able to get hearing health or speech care or whatever, speech therapy that is.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, like both hearing problems and speech problems could lead to just learning problems, having problems, just having a tough time in school.
Oh yeah.
And yeah. So that kind of preventative care is absolutely important for a little kid.
It totally is, and interestingly, we find that hearing loss, if it goes untreated, it results in a whole bunch of nasty things. It can result, and this is for adults or kids, it can result in anxiety. It can result in depression. It could result in, it puts you at higher risk for cognitive decline or dementia. It also can make people just really feel more isolated because they don't want to go to the bar or to the restaurant and go hang out with their buddies because they can't hear well in those situations. So they kind of become isolated.
Yeah.
And so we don't want that to happen to kids or adults. So we got to try to prevent the hearing loss, but then also treat the hearing loss if that happens. So it's a really great thing we do. And I'm really happy that we're going to be up at Frozen Dead Guy Days because a lot of people I know that go to Frozen Dead Guy Days, they go to a lot of concerts and a lot of festivals, and they may not be thinking about their ear health when they're having a great time like that. So I think it's really crucial for people to consider their hearing and potential damage to their hearing when they're trying to have a good time, because it doesn't have to be that way. We have tech now, hearing protectors or strategies to try to make it so that you don't have to have hearing damage just to go have a fun time.
That's excellent. Now, is this the first Frozen Dead Guy Days that you've been at, or?
So my band played in 2016 and 2018, so I've been on that side of things.
Oh, that's awesome.
In 2018, we played to a completely packed tent, and 2016 was pretty crowded too. So I mean, I've been on the other side of things where I was the one creating the loud sounds, and now I'm the one trying to bring awareness to, hey,
if you want to keep on enjoying the loud sound,
come on in, get your ears checked, and get a little educational booklet and talk to me about your hearing. And so I just think that this is going to be a really valuable experience, and it means a lot to me because not only have I been one of the performers there a couple times, but I also grew up in Nederland.
Yeah.
I went to elementary school there. I lived there till I was about 13. I was born in Nederland. And so I remember when this festival first started.
Yeah.
I remember basically the roots of this festival, and to me it means a lot to be part of it and to serve the community that I was raised in. And I know there's people from out of town that come up there too, but
oh yeah,
the culture is very unique in Nederland. Frozen Dead Guy Days kind of embodies that culture and exemplifies it. And for me, it's like really cool to be like, hey, here's my hometown. Let's do something cool to bring some awareness, bring some value to bring extra value to the festival. So I'm really excited about that part.
That's excellent, and that's definitely in line with the just the philosophy and the spirit of the town.
Oh yeah.
And I've only been there a short time myself, but I felt it immediately, and from all the help and meeting all the great people, it's definitely a community that accepts and gives back. And,
totally.
and I think it's kind of really cool that like the festival's been gone for 2 years and you're coming back. It's like, I grew up here, I've entertained y'all, and now I'm coming back, just to give you a little bit of service, a little bit of help if you need it.
That's
and
right.
I think that's awesome.
It's really cool to come full circle where you're a kid there reaping the benefits of the wonderful community. Then you get to play the loud music and be on that side of things, blasting my guitar amp into the crowd. And now I'm trying to, do my more second career type stuff here. So I think it's going to be really valuable. It doesn't cost anything for, there's no extra cost to come on in and get your hearing tested. We can test multiple people at once, up to 6 people at a time.
Oh, yeah.
So if you want to come in with your fam or your crew that you're there with, people can come all in at once. We give you your results right there. Let you know if you passed or failed the hearing, or not failed, passed, or, kind of refer on the hearing test. And give you some advice on what you can do to help protect yours and maybe go from there. But overall, it's just going to be really great. And I think we'll be parked in the B&F parking lot, the grocery store type little town center there.
And shopping center there. Awesome.
And the shopping center. And the trailer's a big orange trailer that says on-site hearing testing.
Yep, definitely can't miss it.
Can't really miss it. It takes about 10 to 15 minutes to come on in and do the whole thing. And so it's just going to be really great. I think we'll be there. We'll be there Saturday and Sunday. So people come on down. Probably won't be there later in the evening, but come on down from about the other times, noon to 5, and we'll go from there. So let's see here. Yeah, I think that was pretty much the gist of what the festival will be like.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you very much. That sounds excellent. I'm sure you're going to get a lot of foot traffic, and I hope people just, don't be shy. If you're curious, come on in. If you think, I've been hearing a little bit of, if it sounds like, you just left your stereo on with the volume all the way up and nothing's playing, if it sounds like that in your ear, I suggest you stop in. Definitely stop in. I'd like to thank Dr. Cronin for sitting down and sharing his story and all that great information with us. Be sure to visit the mobile testing trailer at the Village Shopping Center off Lakeview Drive during Frozen Dead Guy Days, Saturday, March 19th and Sunday, March 20th.
Thanks, Chris. Very Nice Brewing Company has several featured community events in March, including craft beer and cribbage, bring a cribbage board and some cards, on Wednesdays, and Trivia Night Sunday, March 20th. Check out their event information in this week's edition of The Mountain Ear.
And for our final story today, we talked to Jimmy Keith, Nederland Realtor. Once again, you're up, Jamie.
Hello, my name is Jamie Lammers, and this is my interview with Realtor Jimmy Keith. I'm going to be talking to him about a few things today. First, I'm going to be talking to him about his business, Jimmy Keith Real Estate. Then I'm going to be talking to him about his Nederland memorabilia collection, and then I'm going to be talking briefly about the Kennedy hearse being owned by Boulder.
This is Jimmy Keith at Remax of Boulder.
How did this business start? How long ago did it start, and how did it start?
Well, I came up to Nederland in 1974 and put the railroad cars up in front of what's now the shopping center. And in doing so, became interested in buying gold mines and silver mines up Caribou, Eldora valleys. And so started buying gold mines and mineral patents. What was interesting in Nederland is it was a wide open real estate market from a vacant land perspective. At the west end of First Street is and was the tungsten mine mill, and that was my warehouse. So I was able to purchase a lot of different properties going up and down the canyons and realized there was a business to be had as people were building cabins primarily up in 4th of July and above Eldora and in Eldora and Cardinal and Caribou, and wanted to buy these gold mines to put their cabins on. So that got me in the real estate business and kind of made the railroad cars, which was mostly antiques, a secondary business by 1984, and decided to do real estate full-time in 1984. At that time, it was alternative living in Nederland, so selling a lot of geodesic domes and earth berm houses, silo houses. So it was a different type of client. young people just making their way. The average home was running around $29,000 back then. So it was a lot of volume. You moved a lot of real estate to make a living, and it was easy to get people into a property because prices were low. As time progressed, of course, prices have gone up and houses have gone up, and so my notoriety as the mountain guy luckily was kind of entrenched, so I was able to ride the wave forward. So real estate has been very successful for me in the entire mountain area, and of course I specialize in mountains. If somebody wants to go buy something out east, they'll probably pick a realtor that lives out east. Having lived on Magnolia for 25 years, certainly knew that area and owned property on all the canyons, including Sugarloaf and Coal Creek, and built, 15 homes, or participated in building at least 15 spec homes in the different canyons. Was a terrific amount of fun, and be able to hands-on build them, not just sub it out, was different than other realtors, started a different type of career.
And what do you think makes you, as a business, different from other similar businesses?
Well, there are a lot of realtors around now that have gotten their license. Everybody's got a real estate license, including several dogs in town. They've jumped in, and I don't blame them. It's a great business to be in if you're a good people person. The unique feature that I've got is I've got the history on all the properties, so I'm extremely well-versed in septic survey issues, title issues, so I understand title commitments, I understand border disputes. I've been involved in settling many, many disputes over values, over borders, legality of different features of property such as wells and septic, setbacks, and I'm very good at getting variances to bring things to current code. As a number of people, I guess almost everyone, has done some additions to their home, added something without a building permit perhaps, and then get, quote, caught when it's time to sell a property. And the last thing you want to do as a seller is pass that on to the next person. It will always come out to bite you. So the time to correct former, we'll say, sins is to get them corrected before the closing so that you can close in clear conscience and get the top dollar. So that's a little different than the average realtor who probably doesn't have that background in how to work with the county. But one thing I have done is donate a terrific amount of property to Boulder County open space. I'm not saying that it gives me clout, but it certainly gets me behind the desks, the county offices, instead of across the desk. And it's been a learning experience as each time a new staff member comes into the county or the city to work with that new person to let them know that I know what's going on. The same goes with the septic permit people and with the well permit people. I think that my rapport with the surveyors and the builders goes a long way in making issues just plain disappear. The notoriety that I get from being RE/MAX of Boulder, which is the number one real estate company for the mountains, by manyfold, is that I get the out-of-town buyers. It's one thing to list a property, but it's another thing to get top dollar when you're selling it. And people come into the area, pick up the agents that do the big volume and get the big numbers. And quite frankly, everyone that's selling wants the big dollar, and truthfully, they need the big dollar if they're going to move, because it's really expensive to replace your property no matter where you go.
What do you think is your favorite part about what you do?
Well, my favorite part of it clearly is the people. There's a reason they are moving. There's a reason they got here. And to make those two mesh is really fun, because everyone comes out of the transaction happy. Seller makes money, and the buyer is so delighted to get a piece of the rock, so to speak, because it's the one investment that people make in their life that's lifelong. The income produced from it is what we call actual wealth. What you make in the rest of your life is income. You spend it. Wealth is created through actually owning real estate. And the value of your retirement, the value of your investments is really measured in real estate often. So it's really important for people to understand, and for the realtor to understand, that that's the goal, is to protect somebody's investment and make sure it's rock solid. But the other side of it is to make sure that what they're buying, if I'm representing the buyer, is real, that it's not poorly built or poorly permitted or poorly zoned. There are problem properties, and I certainly want to get the issues solved prior to any closing so that the investment's solid.
Is there anything else in general about the business that you would want to add or make sure was mentioned about it? Or
Well, the one thing about the business, which is no surprise to anybody, is prices are high. Everyone seems to speak of, oh, this is a peak market, quick, we better grab it before the market crashes. But I've been at it for 35 or 40 years We've gone slightly flat a couple of times, but never down. Everyone in the world knows of Boulder County. They want to be here. So our investments are solid. There's no rush getting out. When you're ready to make a move, it's okay, but it is a solid investment here, and that's what I want people to know. When they buy, you really can't overpay. It's just nice to be where you want to be, and there is nowhere nicer than Boulder County. The one complaint I hear, which is not valid, people like to complain about the government of Boulder being too tight, too tough, but it keeps Boulder nice. Truthfully, if you go out east and see the development that's going on where the zoning is not tighter, it makes a mess. So yes, it's harder to get your permits and harder to conform, but likewise, it's harder for your neighbors to, quote, mess up their property, which messes up your property. So there is a real benefit in zoning, even though it's a little hard the day you're building to conform to it.
Is there any way you would recommend people contact you if they're interested in buying a property?
I'm always available. I'm up through Nederland every day, always have been. My email is jimmykeith@boulderco.com. My cell, 24/7, 303-898-2795.
Really quickly, because I want to do this to get more stuff for the podcast as well, I also heard that you have been sending in some historical photos of the town to the paper.
That's true. I have a terrific amount of Nederland history, perhaps more than anyone in Nederland. I've got history because my granddad got the job in 1954 of taking care of the dam, although I did not come until 1957, but I'm able to supply the town with a lot of history. When we moved up to Magnolia, there were only 13 people. They were divided to Skates Ranch. But all of the roads around Nederland, being on the original fire department, I knew them all. And through the archives, surprisingly, were kept in the attic at the Public Service Building out of 63rd and Valmont. I got the glass negatives for a lot of things that were built, all the way from the Cross Mine up on Caribou to the power plant by the tunnel in Boulder Canyon. So I have kept most of that. I've donated a fair amount of it now to different museums, especially the University of Colorado. But it's been fun to have it. It's fun to hold on to it. A lot of the memorabilia from the mines in Nederland went into building the Dark Horse restaurant in Boulder, Baby Doe's Bassus Mine restaurant in Denver. And it was fun to be able to actually save a lot of those things that would have been spent out for scrap. The one thing that I am very proud of is that I have built a ghost town, mining town up on the mountain I own above Lyons. And it's all of the ore carts and shiv wheels and memorabilia that would not fit in the museum in Nederland that are in the field practically on display. So mining collectors marvel at what I've preserved, and it's a lot of fun to show people. That's on my horse ranch up above Lyons.
And how did you get access to all of this stuff?
Well, I got lucky and not lucky. I've always went after stuff. When I had the antique store, the trains in Nederland, I really fell into it kind of by accident, slightly. The kid, I saw the articles by Army Jeeps, $50. Well, it wasn't really true. You bought the catalog for $3 to buy these Army Jeeps that didn't really exist. But I started buying railroad memorabilia up in Cheyenne and Laramie, cheap from the railroads, and buying surplus equipment from companies like ServiceMaster, making hippie vans out of ServiceMaster cleaning vehicles. So I had a lot of Army ambulances and a lot of service vehicles that we made into campers, we being me and my wife Charlotte. And we did that, and then was able to be at a place in Nederland where the mining companies wanted to get out of Nederland. So the Wolf Tongue Mill was owned by Cold Springs Corporation. They leased me the mill there and out of 63rd and Valmont, the Butte Mill, for my warehouse to put all this stuff in that they didn't want anymore, ore carts and that type of mining equipment, drills, such, the type of things that are in the museum in Nederland. So I was able to buy all that stuff because I needed a lot of volume for restaurant decorating, which was my main antique business in the trains. The train cars in Nederland, people couldn't understand how we earned a living in there, but really it was a wholesale business for restaurant decorating, moving a lot of merchandise mail order before the internet. So the Wolf Tongue Mill at the end of First was quite a warehouse, and it allowed these mining companies to dispose of assets and still make money for stockholders versus scrap metal. So it was terrific to be there at the time when things were being salvaged there and all the way up to Laramie, Wyoming, and for the military. And so Charlotte and I ended up owning many, many railroad cars. We bought dozens and dozens of train cars from the railroad when they were doing away with cabooses and passenger cars. We had tracks at a Union Station in Denver with our railroad cars, and we sold cabooses all across the country, railway cars all across the United States. Built railroad restaurants and museums coast to coast. So the railroad cars in Denver were really the hub office of a mail order company that was a brainchild that we had together. Charlotte still is the active participant in all of this, and she still today runs the giftware part of that business. So it's a lot of years of stocking stores. She still stocks stores in Estes Park wholesale, of course, only.
One more quick thing before we go. You were telling me before, and I wish I'd gotten it on the podcast, but I just was so fast that I couldn't stop it. You were talking about the Kennedy hearse being leased to Boulder?
No, it's not leased. We own it. We brought it here to store it.
Wow.
Yeah, Stephen Tebow, who is now famous in Nederland, people assume is a wealthy businessman, but he, like myself, is a country boy who made it, and he's a philanthropist. He purchased that car for big numbers to preserve it, and it's in a museum here, in a private museum here in town, along with John Lennon's Rolls Royce and some other very famous vehicles that are all $1 million plus things to have put away, and an unusual assortment of things to have in museums, stock in museums. It feels terrific. When we were doing the antique store, which was, it all tied together with buying the gold mines and silver mines up in the canyons. Virtually all the houses that are around are either built on silver or tungsten or gold mines. There was a lot of salvaging to be done where the railroads could make some money. We even bought all the denim from the old railroad men used to have company-issued denim coats and overalls, and we even bought that. And then the stores on the hill that were selling used denim had a wholesale source to buy wholesale quantities of denim from us, not a little bit, So we had quite a business between the mining and the railroad and the military surplus and the railroad surplus and the mining surplus. It all fit together with real estate because in the end there was real estate underneath. At right-of-ways, I sold all the railroad right-of-ways from Denver to Boulder. Of course, now the fast tracks would like to buy back. But that was then, this is now. What's interesting about the hearse is that everybody thinks Tebow's a rich guy because he has a Black Forest, the Red Lion Inn, but in a shopping center. But he bought the trains to preserve those as well from me in Nederland. So that's really Buffalo Bill's car sitting there. It truly is. I spent many years chasing that car. That ran with Buffalo Bills. So that's a very cool thing to be in Nederland. People don't know that's real. It's quite an art piece. And that coach along the street, that's a 1906 car on Southern Coach. We actually rode that car. Pretty fun before we brought it up there.
I think those are all the big questions that I have on my end, unless there's anything else that you want to add about.
I don't know. It's too much for the average person. That's all I know. We're going to leave out the rock star stuff from Caribou Ranch. Those days we won't even talk about. In Nederland, a whole different era when the rock stars were there. We were there for that, the original real estate boom, selling to Gershio and the different rock stars. So that was an interesting part of the real estate career when I got started, was dealing with some, quote, famous rock stars that were buying around Nederland. Steven Still's on. That's actually pretty cool to take walks with those now very famous rock stars who were famous then. The Beatles and Beach Boys bought a house in Big Springs, and it's pretty cool. The people who did own up there, Steven Stills had several, and a lot of fun to met all those guys through Caribou Ranch and got to sell them all houses and then resell some of them later. So a lot of bad behavior, but a lot of fun, but that was a different era. Too much of a collage to make sense out of to me. That's why I never try to put it together. It just kind of flowed because it was there at the right time, but not by accident. On purpose. I think a lot of people, their lives happen by accident, but this was all planned. I was definitely major go-getter, and we ran a big dog sled team out of Nederland, and that got me involved with the university and their animal behavior department, and my son carried on with that. So that helped get that animal behavior department, which is called the ethology department at CU, off the ground, and that started right in Nederland, the ethology department at CU. And Charlotte and I were right at the base of that, and the university treated me really well. And putting that all together. And I did go to business school at CU, by the way. I liked CU just fine, And it was nice because I got the assistant professor status, so I could use the rare book rooms across the country and do my dissertation and such. I still run horses, carriages and Western riding and English riding, steeplechase riding, as does Charlotte. Charlotte's a big part of all this. And since day one, the mother of our 3 kids, born and raised in Nederland, all of them. They all race Eldora still. Ski Eldora. Back in 1972, I got the whole back page of the National Enquirer sitting on the back of a caboose with my wife. And the title of it said, "Hippies Make Good in Colorado." No story, just that. It was called the Morning something Star, that it wasn't Enquirer Star. And they called that a personal interview. I have copies of, we've been written up in a lot of papers, including, we had a 7-page spread in Life magazine, even on our family. But that's the one newspaper I don't have. I got articles from most of the other newspapers and magazines and real stories on us. Even the New York Times did. I got a whole page in there, riding our private cars, Pretty cool. My mother called me and said, "Oh, you got a whole page in the Times." But everybody comes back to Nederland. My kids all came back. They left and came back.
Thank you so much for this interview. This was awesome.
Okay, good luck making sense of it, though.
Thank you so much to Jimmy for coming on board and joining us for the podcast. You can contact him and Jimmy Keith Real Estate by calling either 303-898-2795 or 303-441-5621. Or you can email either jimmykeithrealestate@gmail.com or jimmykeith@boulderco.com.
Thanks again, Jamie. Did you know a standard backhoe loader with a 14-foot dig depth and 80 to 90 horsepower costs anywhere from $50,000 to $75,000? Larger models with greater horsepower and dig depth can cost $100,000. So if you need help with septic installation, digging your new foundation, rock walls, construction demolition, call Hardt's Backhoe Service, your locally owned and operated excavating company working in the Peak-to-Peak region. They can take care of all your excavating needs and so much more. Now scheduling summer and fall projects, you can reach them at 303-589-9354.
Pick up this week's edition of The Mountaineer in print in multiple locations across the Peak-to-Peak, including Western Boulder County, Gilpin County, and Jefferson County. And that's all for this week's edition of The Mountaineer Podcast. All editions of The Mountaineer Podcast, print newspaper, and the latest news are always available on our website at www.themountaineer.com.
Thanks, everyone, for a great podcast. I'm Doug Armitage.
And I'm Barbara Hardt. Until next time, thanks for listening.
And that's it for our show. Subscribe online to get more access to more news, weekly updates to our community calendar, and a link to our YouTube channel by visiting themountaineer.com. Be sure to use the coupon code PODCAST when subscribing for a 10% discount, only available to our listeners. If you are in the local Peak-to-Peak area, be sure to pick up a print edition of The Mountaineer at a local business. I'm Dango Rose. Thank you for listening.